In this micro video, we're taking a look at presenting statistical data in the form of a bar graph. So our first question that we need to answer is, when do we need to use a bar graph? We use a bar graph when the data that we've collected is discrete, which means it's unlinked to any of the other data gathered. Let's look at an example to explain that further. If I was to gather data on the colour or the eye colour of students in room 4, then each of the categories, which are the different eye colours that we might find in room 4, is unrelated to any other of the categories, and that's what we mean by discrete. Let's take this data now, or some imaginary data, and present it initially in a tally chart. So here we have a tally chart or frequency table showing the eye colours of students in room 4. Because that data is unrelated in each of the categories, the bar graph is one of the forms which we can use to display this data visually. So let's see how we go about that. The first step is to use a ruler, which I'm not, to draw the axes of the graph. The x-axis is the horizontal, and the y-axis is the vertical axis. Each axis requires its own label, so we'll take a look first at the x-axis. Its label is going to be eye colour. So that tells us what the categories will be that are on the x-axis. So we're going to give ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. The first will be blue. The second will be green, so the same order as in our frequency chart. Then we'll have brown and hazel. On the y-axis, at evenly spaced intervals, we will have the looking at the largest number in our frequency chart. This shows us that we need to go up to 10. That's our highest recorded number. So I'm going to, maybe not quite so evenly, but I'll do my best. 2, 4, 6, and yes, I'm a little bit uneven with these, but you just need to remember to make your intervals even, and this goes by the label of frequency. In other words, the number of times that something was counted. Okay. Missing from our graph is one very important piece of information, and that is the title of our graph. So I'm going to put that in now. It must be meaningful, so eye colour, won't cut the mustard, it's got to be eye colour of students from room 4. Now we come to the actual recording of the data. Just as our data is discrete and unrelated to any other piece of data in our graph, so too are the bars that we draw. Our bars stay separate from any of the other bars, and this is what makes it distinct from a histogram where we have grouped data and the bars touch each other. So let's take a look. We'll take our blue category, and we have 6 people who have blue eyes. So using a ruler in your case, you're going to rule up to the 6. Note that I'm not drawing up the y-axis, and then we rule across at the 6 line, and then rule down the other side. Yours will be a lot straighter than mine. When we come to the green data, it goes to the 10, but this is where you need to be very clear. The gap that exists between your y-axis and your first bar needs to be the same size as the gap that exists between your first bar and the second bar. So now let's draw in the 10. You would rule up to the 10, rule across and down. Another point to note, the width of the bar, the first bar, needs to be the same width as the second and all subsequent bars as well. It doesn't have to be the same size as the space between the bars, as long as the spaces between the bars remain the same as each other. Moving on to the data for brown, we put in the same space, we roll up to the position where the 5 exists, and then the same with the space. So now we have all of our data. A little bit uneven because I'm doing it freehand, but you can see what's happening reasonably clearly. So that's how we create a bar graph from data presented in a tally chart.